the reason when people work on you it feels good is because they're putting pressure into you, and so you have the ability to truly do it yourself. I want to be able to do 80% of the work myself, and then for the 20% that I can't do, that's why you have professionals. So whenever people come into the clinic, guys, it's too expensive. Like for me to charge what I have to charge and pay my staff and do everything, do paperwork that it needs to be done, there has to be some work that has to be done outside of here to truly have a functional body, instead of like, because I really would like to see all of you guys have a functional body and get to the level of fitness that you want to get to where you can do whatever you want to do. That's the goal.
So anti-cultural.
Exactly. It's very
countercultural.
Yeah, so it's extremely that, because we've always been told like we're supposed to be dependent on the community that you have. And great, yeah, be dependent, but only be dependent on like when you're in that state where you need some professional help. And as much as it sounds backwards for me to say this, is that you have to be able to learn how to work on yourself. Like, and this stuff is it seems very complicated, but it's very basic. It just takes time for you like playing with it and getting into it. The whole reason for the movement exam and the strength exam is like learning, okay, well, what's weak, what's not, what needs mobilization, like what are the best ways to attack it. And so it all ties in. Like I really want to have a health center based around health instead of I want to get rid of your low back pain. Getting rid of low back pain is not very exciting. I mean, you can do it, but it's going to come back if you keep doing the same thing. So it gets even cooler when you're able to go ride 100 miles, go run a race, go be with your kids, like have the same amount of energy with your kids on a morning in the evening as you do the morning, or be able to work with a clear mind. All that ties into that. All that ties into the energy that you have and how your body uses it. And if there's any areas that need work, that's blood flow, that's efficiency, that's inflammation. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So mobilization is the key to, or a big key to functionality. Okay, so what we're going to do, so for you guys that weren't in here for the first class, this is the Kabuki pain pill. It is 44 pounds. Kabuki boomstick, which is 22 pounds. There are the 3 geishas, which are to your left or behind you. One is 100, one is 115, one is 130. As you guys, were you in the? Yeah. As you noticed that when you put those on you, it wasn't as heavy as you thought it would be. You thought it was going to like collapse your leg or your foot. It didn't do that, which is good. You all were able to walk. One thing that I think.
How was your soreness? I was really sore that night. The next morning, it was better.
So that's what I wanted.
Fine the next day. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to talk about, and I don't think I emphasized it. The best that I could in the sense of what to expect. And so I was doing the next human mechanic talk, and we were talking about that. And I think you had came in the next day, Meg.
Yeah.
And so you might be like your leg's gonna fall off tonight, but tomorrow I guarantee when you get up and you get some rest, you're like, that's great. No, tomorrow you'll see, well, because we're doing pretty aggressively, because a lot of the times that I work on myself with these, you're getting maybe 5 to 15 minutes in like a quick session. If I'm doing more work, I'm making sure that I'm getting both legs, I'm moving to other parts of the body. So it's not like you're working in one area. So tonight, as I'm talking, we're going to go through and just work on one area. So make sure that you're going to both legs. So I made that mistake last time. I just worked on my right, and I felt that same way. So, okay, so let's go and get in a circle. And then you guys grab whichever one you think is going to be good for you. And I'm going to get, who wants the biggie? Martha, you going to go with the biggie?
I'll take the big one.
Okay. Well, I can go get, let me show y'all one thing, and I'll go get one more. Martha, I'm going to give you this one. Sounds.
Get my toes out of the way.
Yeah, if you get your toes in that, it's going to be, I think that's yeah. Okay, good. So on this, what I want you to do is what we're going to work on is the quad. So what I want you guys to understand is that whenever someone has like knee pain, it's typically going to be a muscle called your vastus lateralis. So you have a muscle here, 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 and here pretty much. We don't have to go over the names. When someone has a knee issue or they have a hip issue, it's most of the time is going to be that vastus lateralis. That's why have y'all ever seen like, oh, I beat the mess out of my IT band with a roller or whatever? It does nothing. It literally does nothing. They've done research where they've taken the IT band out of a cadaver and they hung 500 pounds on it. Do you know how much it moved?
Yeah, it won't stretch.
It was like 1 millimeter.
Yeah.
And so do you think that beating the crap out of it and it being as sensitive as it is, you're not getting a whole lot of bang for your buck in the sense of what you're getting at it by rolling that out or trying to stretch it? It's not going to move. What they did see is that the vastus lateralis, which comes in and it feeds into the side of the knee, is one of the main reasons why someone would have knee pain. And so if you look at the next thing, this guy, it's actually a big muscle, but once it gets here, it gets very narrow, and then it goes in and it attaches here right below the actual kneecap. It goes over the kneecap, and then attaches in your something called tibial tuberosity. These are the two things that are going to most likely cause you problems. We are a quad dominant society. We use these guys a lot more. And so a lot of the times when people have problems with them, it's because the hamstring is not being active enough. Does that make sense? So the whole point of what I want you guys to understand is that if this is not balanced, you can beat the crap out of this thing all day long and it's not going to strengthen this. So that makes sense? So there is some intuition into this and going, if you just have like an annoying type pain, and you know that you've been doing something that is activating this a lot, you have to go and strengthen this. So that could be, if you know that you've been active here, it may not be that you need to pulverize it. You may need to strengthen it. You can do it in a really basic way. That's part of the reasons why we're doing the longer course. I'll be able to get into stuff like that. Tonight, we're going to just show you how to pulverize it. So, okay, no matter which one you have, don't drop it on you. What I want you to do is, I want you to just go over the top of it. And so this one is gnarly, so I wouldn't put it all on you. I would get it and put the weight, but just for demonstration purposes. What you can do is you can just roll through it. And if you guys have been in the clinic, I think you've used them in the clinic. Just rolling over. When you get to, I'm going to let you play with that. You got it? Mm-hmm. So when you get to, you have another muscle here to here called your sartorius. Your sartorius helps you bring your leg out like this. It crosses over right over that point. So most likely when you get to that point, you're going to feel some tenderness. You're going to have 3 layers of muscle on top of each other. So don't really, it does need to be broken up, but it's going to be more tender there on all of you, not because what you're doing on your day to day. So go ahead and start rolling through. And so you're going to notice that as you roll through, you have a tender spot somewhere. When you get to that tender spot, you find any? Is it like that? Is that you're going to get that tool, and you're gonna roll into it. You're gonna get the knurling. That's what that stuff is, and you're gonna take the slack out of it. And I think you know it. Yep, yeah. I see you doing it. And so you're going to get it like handlebars and dig into the tissue. Like that. I don't want to do that. No, yeah, you do. You don't have knurling because you have pressure. You have weight. So you're going to get it and you're going to roll in like this. Sorry. And so you can see where you can make it as gnarly and nasty as you want. When you have these guys, you're going for deep pressure. You don't have to roll anything. It's going to smash everything that it gets into. So one thing that you can do is just like you're rolling out is that you're just getting the tissue to change. You're changing blood flow. You're doing movement like Meg is doing here. So one thing that is good is if you're on an elevated surface, you can pin that muscle down and move your leg. The one thing I love about these weighted instruments is that they are passively working on you. You can't do that. It's almost like your personal therapist, because what you can do is you can passively work on you. So you can make more progression in getting that muscle broken up in a passive pressure. So when a therapist works on you, the reason why they can make so much progress is because they're working on you without you having to activate the muscle. When you have to like stretch or you do something that is active, you're actively moving through something, it takes a lot more work. And so the reason why we're starting off with using these weighted tools is because you can do just as much as a therapist or a chiropractor or someone. You okay? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sure.
Yes.
Where's that release?
Do we have an injury release? So being able to passively work on yourself, that's where that movement's going to come in. Is you're going to get active and passive work. And so where you're going to literally light up that neurology, the whole reason why the weight is going to work, one of the reasons why it literally downgrades that muscle tension, you okay?
Yeah.
Is that you have a pressure sensor, you have a bunch of different sensors that go up to something called your cerebellum. Your cerebellum is going to take that deep pressure and it literally turns off what's making that muscle tight. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want y'all to roll out. I'm going to run down and get you a more functional piece. I'll be right back.
But it hurts worse on the right.
I guess that's weird.
Because I always work this way.
You start off on your left foot.
Got it.
Most everything.
Oh, no.
Are
Okay,
you left-handed or right-handed?
Right.
so how are you feeling with that pressure? Is it okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to try a heavier one?
No.
Perfect.
Well, I don't think I can like hold it up like I need to.
So the other portion of this is, any of y'all have questions with this before I move on? Nope. So what you'll do, if you're doing it singly instead of both, you're going to have a lot better job of accomplishing what you're trying to break up if it's like on one leg.
Dumb question. Why is one leg like hurts more than the other?
You probably have a dominant side. That dominant side isn't necessarily like hand dominance or foot dominance. It can be what's going on in the noggin. Which you got a lot going on, Jay. So the
Where did I sign up for that therapy?
actually that's at the beginning of that human mechanic course,
Oh, cool.
which it just depends. Okay, so things if you don't have these instruments, what do? So you can do a bunch of different things. Holding a stretch. A lot of people will stretch for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes. You have to get the tissue warm. So the reason why they tell you guys know not to stretch before a physical activity, right? You're destabilizing the muscle and the body. You're more prone to injury if you stretch before you do something physical.
Like warm up first.
You warm up first. You do your thing that is physical, get the tissue moving, get blood flow moving, and then what you do is you stretch. So if you do stretch, and that's the only thing that you do, you need to spend about 45 minutes to an hour stretching. Mm-hmm. And that is because you have to get the tissue to change. The whole point of actually stretching is to obtain a result, right? And so unless you just want to just have an activity, it's a mindless activity, then that's fine. You can do that. But what you want to do is you want to hold it for a good bit of time. So 2 to 3 minutes when you have something without weight, And you even do it with these guys, which I'll go over in a second, but you can hold, be careful of your knee joint doing this. But what you can do is a lot of the times people will grab their leg when they stand. You're not really doing a whole lot. You may be stretching this, but you need to get beyond that joint for it to truly make a difference. So that's why I love these tools, and I know I keep going back to them. But you get it, and these floors are so hard. But what you do is you get and you try and feel that stretch beyond here. And if you do that, and you don't have these tools, and you feel this stretch, you want to make sure that you get in this position. If you want to do it on your bed to where it's actually a little bit more forgiving, you can get back and rest on a pillow. Like if you get like a pillow and you can, because the whole thing is trying to make sure you lengthen in a straight line from here to here. So if you see what Meg's doing, is you're really getting that line from your knee all the way to your hand and try and stretching that tissue. Or if this is good and you feel it past that hip joint, you're doing a good job, you're fine. If your knee does not like that, you can go to a standing position. It's not about balance right now, so you can hold on to something. What you can do is bring this here, act like your knee is in line with your other knee and you're trying to stand straight. So what you're gonna do is bring it here, you're gonna tuck your pelvis. Y'all know, do the Urkel like this, like tuck your butt in, and then tuck your butt in and try and tuck your butt and try and get your leg as if it was you're standing on it. Does that make sense? So when you're doing that, you're crossing that pelvis line, and it's not just about stretching the muscle, it's about getting the fascia and lengthening it and doing it for a long enough period to make a difference in the tissue. Does that make sense? A lot of the times we were taught in school, like, yeah, getting a stretch. It's not doing anything. It's literally, it's kind of like that like bro science of like what you learn from your PE teacher or your gym teacher or some guy in the gym. It's just, if you truly can get into it and it bothers you, and you're not getting enough functionality of what you're doing, you're going to stop doing it, right? So the whole point of doing it is truly getting that tissue and getting it to change so you resolve the issue that you're having, or it may just be maintenance that you're going after. Okay, so what I want y'all to do is we're going to start using these, or you can use it depending on what you want, is that there's actually any questions with the stretch? None? Okay.
Every day?
No, so that's a really good question. So I don't stretch every day. I will pick an hour out of a week or every 10 days and pick that hour and do that full hour of work. If I have gotten done with a workout and I'm warm, then I'll do 15 minutes or I'll do 10 minutes or does that make sense?
Yep, totally.
Hi Christian. If I have a specific issue that I can't go and work out, I'll just work on it a long enough time to where I do warm up the tissue and I can truly get to that problem. So the next thing, there's something on me. Okay, so the next thing is, if you get these ones that have weight, is that you can lay down and let this weight literally just sit there. And this is where I love these. And they're scary because they're heavy, because they could probably break something if you dropped it on you. So what you do is you get to a point to where it's tender, and then you begin to move. So once again, passive and active movement together. Or you can do nothing and let it sit there. The thing about letting it sit there is that your muscle cannot compete with that weight. It can't compete with the energy that is being put into it, and it literally will melt. The tension in the muscle will literally go away. Extremely powerful. It's just a pain in the ass to have one of these. One thing that you can do is, if you have weights in your house or you have a kettlebell, you can get that weight, because you're probably, I don't know why y'all would have a kettlebell that size.
Yeah, I keep 120 pounds.
Yeah, right. Um,
Good door stopper. It's in my backpack. Would you like it now?
yeah, I carry it around. Being able to stretch for a long period of time is, if you don't have these tools, which I really don't recommend that you get them. I think that you should come and use them here in the area that we have them dedicated. And we'll have it to where you don't have to necessarily have an appointment to do that. You can just walk in and use it. So what it is, you roll through and you let that weight sit there. So right now, when these are up here, if y'all are in the waiting room and you have no kids, then you can come up here and work on this, and they can come grab you before your appointment. So I want you guys to, you want to try this one, or you want to grab? It actually feels really good on that. Yeah. Here, come over here and switch with me.
He said grimacing.
Yeah. So sit there, and then get to where. So I will not drop it on you.
Yeah, because that will break my leg.
Too much. Why don't we use that? Why don't you?
Here.
Here, I'll come over there.
Yeah, I was say I'll switch places because that way there's nothing.
Okay.
Oh wait, but it's this is my work.
You want to put it on the other one? Yeah.
It's my bad side.
It's my bad leg.
Yeah, look, janky leg.
That comment always cracks me up because I'm like, well, it's the same age as the other leg. I'm just messing with you. All right. So I want you to. So that's the lighter side. I have more. There's more weight on that side. So try and now. Is that enough weight, you think? Because you can always move it
Higher.
there, and you get a little bit more weight. And so what I did with Kristen, here, I want you to hold it so it doesn't roll down your leg. And so what I did with Kristen is get that muscle, and I literally put pressure into it and then rolled it laterally. When you roll it laterally, breaking up that vastus lateralis or that rectus femoris, you're literally getting it and pulling it off of, or you're getting the underneath of it and pulling it off of, it's not really the bone, but you're getting that tissue that is closer to the bone and peeling it off of that. Doesn't work just like that, but it's good to visualize like that. You all right?
Yeah.
I'm
good.
like, my leg, my femur is gonna break. So what I want y'all to do is move those legs around. Martha, if you want more weight, you pull that more towards the center. And then you can keep it in one spot and move your foot. You can move your whole leg as long as you're getting movement within that tissue. So if the way that you can describe fascia is if someone got you and dipped you in like something, like they dunked you all at once, fascia literally covers you from head to toe. How you okay?
Yeah.
If so fascia is kind of like the way that I look at it, or the concept of how I think about affecting it, is that it's kind of like, you know, the knight mesh metal, like what a knight would wear in the medieval times.
Yeah.
Chainmail, there we go. Knight metal. Mesh metal. So it literally could be a lot easier bent as if something heavy laid on it and then you worked out that chain metal. It doesn't work really well with rolling it out. That's going to be more muscle tissue that you're going to get through by repeated or repetitive movements. All right.
Yep. Oh yeah, this leg's tight.
Yep. And so you'll see. Have you been doing that one the whole time?
Well, so far.
Okay. Jay, how you doing over there?
I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
You didn't smash
Just
any.
trying to control it.
You didn't. It's very. I mean, it's odd. Like it's. I mean, for a long time, it took me time to, number one, be comfortable with moving this thing around. But I've gotten to where I'm really comfortable with these. But it's just more so like a fear of not knowing what the hell you're doing, and then not wanting to drop it on your face or anything else. And then realizing like as you start using it, it gets a lot easier to use and it becomes a lot more functional. Now you know why I didn't want you to buy one of these just to buy it, because you would have, most people that I did that to before, they would buy it and then they'd be like, well, I haven't used it. And I'm like, well, you're probably looking at that thing and being like, Dr. John sold me this thing. So yeah, it's a great doorstop, exactly. So one thing, what y'all can do, other than the geishas, and you can do it with a geisha, is that you can grab it and you can go and you floss that muscle. So you're literally peeling it. And that's what you're doing. It's just another technique. So getting in, and so reviewing, what we're doing is we're going through and you're passing through and you're finding what is dysfunctional. For me, it's really like really far up here. The closer you get to that attachment, you're going to need something heavier because that turns into a tendon. And that tendon is a lot easier affected as if you have more weight. Just for the sheer fact is you're not going to change that. I mean, that needs to stay there. It's very durable, so you're not going to change it unless you have some pretty significant energy there. Another thing that you can do with the smaller ones, you get this, and you get the belly of that muscle, and you literally peel it away from, and you just get a good grip into that muscle where you're not going to slip off of it. And you're just digging it into it and then trying to peel that muscle away from that underlying layer. You ever seen a tenderloin? That clear layer that you clean off? That's fascia. And so the underneath part of that, the reason why that can be dysfunctional is it gets adhesions and it doesn't move as well as it should. So that affects blood flow, that affects oxygenation, that affects the ability to use it and repair fast and an endurance or repetitive interval type training. You need it to recovery. So you need it to recover. So that recovery is going to be at the expense of having good blood flow, having good oxygen and glucose and nutrient saturation, and then also removal. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You all right?
Yep.
Okay. It looks like it.
Just found a tender spot. That's
Yeah, I believe you. It looks it. So the next thing. So if you're doing something, cycling, one-legged anything, if you're doing anything that is like hiking, horseback riding, I don't know why you're going to do that. I mean, you can, but so not that I'm downing horseback riding, is that you can get on your side and then roll out those adductors. And those adductors, if you're a guy, don't crush your junk. So the heavier ones are going to be a lot easier to use because you're going to press into that. You have adductors and you have a muscle called your gracilis. Your gracilis and those two muscles are they're very thick. They attach at right next to the pubic symphysis, and they attach here and they go down a little bit further. They're mainly, in our culture, mainly used for stabilization, unless you ride a bike, unless you do something on a repetitive basis to where you put pressure into one leg. If you're hiking, a lot of the times people, they will hike. When you hike, you're on one foot pretty regularly, even when you walk in a day-to-day, but you're on a level ground. But if you're hiking, if you're trail running, if you're doing one-legged squats, you're building those stabilization muscles. That's why these guys get pretty sore whenever you do those type movements. And so these guys need love just like all the others need love. So you go in, these, the heavier weights, if you roll in, Meg, mm-hmm. and you get to your side, there you go. And you can see how that feels pretty intense. Is it too much?
There's one spot where
it's like death.
Yeah.
It starts the closer to the knee.
Yeah.
So
it's okay, but
really
further
yeah.
down,
So if you get and be careful around the joints. I don't think that you're gonna make it explode or anything. But one thing that hasn't happened yet. And so what you do when you get to wherever there's a tender spot,
Yeah.
now move that leg.
Yeah.
And that's when you're going to get,
It's like,
you'll feel it release. And then once you get a release out of it and you see mobility happen from the work that you did, you'll start, there's a learning curve here. You're going to do certain things and you'll be like, wow, that didn't do anything. Then you're going to be like, wow, that made a huge difference. And really where it's going to make a difference is when you have that performance aspect of like when you're doing whatever you've wanted to do in a fitness realm and you realize that you went and did what caused pain last time, you worked on yourself, that's your measure. If you're doing this just for like general health and well-being and you're not really testing yourself, it's going to be kind of ambiguous whether you like or will keep doing this. Because there has to be a measure of why mobility happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if there's not a measure, then it's going to be really hard for you to continue to keep doing this because some of it is painful, some of it is not very fun to go through. But when you have a reason why you do something, if you can see the result, that's what will actually make you keep doing it. If you have symptoms and you're doing it, hopefully we get you past this and you're able to, but pain is usually pain, numbness, tingling, dysfunction or symptoms are usually the motivating factor for people to do whatever. But that's whenever it goes away, people are like, that they end up quitting
Yeah.
and then they end up having pain again in like 9 months or 6 months and then they go back to that same thing.
It's
That,
the midnight class, right?
yeah, that's the midnight class. Is that what you're laughing at? Yeah. No, that's not. That's the dark web class. Okay. So quad we've went over. If you really want to affect vastus lateralis, I don't know if we should get into. I think y'all are going to benefit more from the other. So I want y'all to get the smaller ones. I'm going to go get 2 other of the small ones. And then I'll use one of these. Okay, I'll be right back. And you can use it. No, I'm good. I'll be right back. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Okay. So you have something called your ASIS, which is that bone here of the pelvis. So in that, in the pelvis, you have a lot of stuff that overlaps here. You have your iliacus, which is deep, like the lateral portion of the pelvis. You have your psoas, which attaches to your lumbar spine, which then attaches to the inside of your femur. It's something called your lesser trochanter. Those are the things that we're going to work on. These are the things mainly that when people come in that we are working on because they will drastically affect what's happening in your lumbar spine, your pelvis. They can affect things like sciatica. They can affect things, anything hip joint. It's just a big impact area that the reason why it gets tight is because when we sit, all of that tissue shortens. So think about this. When we're in this position, what happens to the muscles? They get shorter, and so when they get shorter, they tighten. Your body's very efficient, and so it's not going to just let that just be loose because that's compromising blood flow, it's compromising a lot of stuff. So when you go and you stand back up from a seated position, that muscle's still short, and so then it actually makes up the movement in the lumbar spine, pulls that lumbar spine into a curve, compresses disc, nerve root, restricts just fluid flow. Being able to actually work on this is really, really great. I'm going to use this guy. And so what you want to do on these is you want to get the non-hole end here. And what you're going to do is you're going to hold 2 hands. You're going to put one here. You're going to go to the inside portion of that ASIS, which is that bone. And then you're going to just move. It doesn't matter in which way. And then you're going to go for a tender spot. You can be very general. If you get high, you're going to start getting into the digestive organs and it's not going to feel real good. You can do that. It's not going to damage anything, but just know that it's going to be a little bit more tender till you figure out Okay, well, that's what muscle tissue feels like, and then that's what organ feels like. And if you get into, like, if you just go for the iliacus, it's, just think of it as like the pelvic bowl. It's the very most lateral thing that you can get to, and it's a pretty safe thing to begin to work on and still be very impactful to change the physiology of that area. You don't have to be on the psoas. The psoas is a little bit more aggressive and hard to get to. So what I'm doing is I'm just holding this there, and you can just hold it there if you don't want to move or you feel like you're going to drop this on you. And then, or you can hold it and move that tissue around. And for me, I feel it more with my legs straight, and I feel it more doing this. But you can do it in the bent position, go out, keep it in the air. Like, just, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. All you're doing is pinning that tissue down and getting the fascia to change and getting the actual muscle tissue to change. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you're using this one, you could be a little sore, but it's actually, I like this one better to do this type work. Pick it up, put it on its side, and then you probably, like, I feel like this feels a lot more aggressive, but it feels like it's actually impactful to, like, because that, once again, that tissue is pretty dense there. I'm not going to move a ton with this one because of the weight, it is a lot. And you just sit it there. If you want to use the biggie, okay. Yeah. If you want to use this guy, you can be a lot more general with it because you're not having to move it around. Here, I'll talk about it. You guys, I think I gave you enough, and then we'll... Anybody have any questions? Like, do you feel like you're doing it right or wrong?
Like right here?
Yeah, so fine, but keep two hands on it. You don't want to drop that on you.
Okay.
If you do, that's what the waiver says. We did not break you. And right there. And so if you, no, don't go on top of that. You want to go on, like, so
Yeah.
you feel, so a little different, right? But keep one low
Okay.
and keep one high.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, and you could even go, like, since you're pretty, you can go that way with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not, you can bring it there and then go, because that muscle, look, that's the beauty about the 3-hour course, is we're going to be able to go, hey, this is the muscle, this is where it attaches. So,
There.
let me see. It's there. And so you're going to go,
There.
yeah, you see the difference? Okay. Yep, so you can even go that right there. You see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just felt like more on top of it.
Yeah, and it really is like you're almost like on, like, very next to being on top of it. So you're getting that tissue and pulling it down, because that muscle, it is literally lateral. Like, if you look at it on Google, it's lateral to that hip. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, if you break it, I meant you, if you break it, didn't do it. I'm just joking, you won't break it. I mean, worst case scenario, I've pinched myself really bad with it, and it doesn't feel good. So do you guys feel like you can switch to the other side and actually get a result from it? And we're going really fast through this, but know that by, like, working on it and being in that area and literally just sitting with it, you learn a lot about, like, what's truly tight, what's not. And then when you go use your body, you can start pinpointing things and know that when you are, like, going for a run or a ride, you can go directly to those areas and because you've increased your consciousness of what the problem actually is, because you'll be thinking about it because you've already worked on yourself a good bit. And it gets more clear as you journey down this path. You get a little bit more clear every time you do it. But there is a learning curve to it. So that's why I wouldn't just put anyone in front of, like, with these things. There's no real good stretches to do without the weight. This one's pretty intensive on the weights. One thing that you can do is affect your abdominal muscle, and that's just doing a Superman on the floor, where you're pushing into the floor with your without these tools. You're not really going to get to the iliacus, but you can change muscle tone in the area. Okay, what I want to do is show y'all with this guy, because I really do think this is one of the best ways to get that area, because it is not as pokey. Do y'all see how that's like pokey? Mm-hmm. And whenever you have a therapist doing it, I do not like therapists working in here. Like, I just don't like it. I don't like them doing it. I'm very rare will I have a therapist do it because I have control issues. And so, that was a joke, by the way. Okay. So what you can do is, this is going to get into the torso, what we'll get into the next class, but what you can do is you can go lateral, and you can, not lateral. You're going to get into like right below that iliacus, that ASIS, that bone, and you're going to be able to affect the quad. And I want all of you to try this, because this is going to be the thing that will make the biggest change in the shortest amount of time. And if you have a knee issue, this is also another area to hit. It's going through the tissue, but where you're going to get rid of a knee issue is going to the other attachment point. So what you're going to get from this is you're going to go right up against that ASIS, and it hurts. Does not feel good. And then you can rotate. You can try and get that tissue and traction it that way. So I'm pinning it down, and then just like we were tractioning, you're putting that tissue and pulling it that way. So what you can do is get that tissue and traction it that way. So you're pushing it, and you're just creating tension. You're creating like where a focal like pressure point is into that muscle, and then you start moving your leg around, and then that can also make a difference into the tissue. Okay, so getting it above that, be careful. So what you have to do is what you'll do is you'll put the weight into your torso, and you can see that I have it on the edge. I don't have it towards the middle because it is heavy. Where's that microphone? And then what I'm doing is you can then begin to stretch really good the actual like psoas. You can feel the obliques. You can feel all of that tissue, because you're literally getting it, and the weight is creating like a pinpoint. And all that I'm doing is I'm moving this, and you will not ever feel anything like it, because there's not really anything that can reproduce this unless someone's sitting on you, and then you don't have the control, which is a problem. At least to get in toward your organs, because it's very much like someone being around your throat. It's a very, like this is, those are your vital organs. Your liver's right up from that, your digestive system, your not gallbladder, what's that organ? Holy moly, it's a small one.
The appendix.
Yes. Holy crap. Oh, by the way, you don't need that one. You can cut that one out. Just letting y'all know. I'm just joking. Okay, so what you can do is...
Just a real side note, my doctor wanted to take it out when I had GYN surgery a few years ago. I was like, okay, can you keep it?
that is literally, y'all know what the appendix does? It is like a house of bacteria for like if you get, so if you get sick, it is like where bacteria will come from to actually occupy a gut if it was wiped out for some reason. It is also it acts as like a lubricating for your digestive system in some way. I don't know any more of that, but does have a function. Okay, so what you're doing is you're getting this, and you saw I went from a flat position to a turn position, and once again, I'm affecting leg, I'm affecting fascia, I'm getting the ability to just go and move and create that fulcrum. There's no right or wrong way to do it. You can go flat and then move the leg around, and you'll start getting into like transverse abdominis, which no one works on, which is really, really good for you. You just have to be careful. Okay. So what you're doing, this is the only tool that I've been able to truly work on myself and feel like I didn't need anyone else working on me until you got to the back. You need someone to work on the back. But being able, before y'all leave, I want you to use this. That's the lighter one. That's the 130. I can tell by the markings. All those scratches is where I've like rubbed my belt against it and like scratched. That's the more heavy one. Yeah, like that's Georgie. No, I'm gonna name them.
You painted one of their toenails.
I thought about getting them just powder coated, like white, blue, gray, and that way I knew. But that's just a lot of trouble. That's a good point too. Or just a marker, like a sharp. See, that's more functional, right? So somewhere. Okay, so who wants to go first? I want you to use. If you're going to below that ASIS, you want to be flat, and then just move where that tension is. If you feel like you do need to like go a little lateral, is that where you feel like you needed to go?
Yeah, it's like kind of pushing.
So that's getting into like vastus lateralis, which that's, if you roll down it, does it get a little bit more tender?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that's something you would need to work on there. But what you can even do, you can even go even more lateral. And and everyone's built a little differently, so you may need to do something a little bit more, a little bit less than what I'm telling you. But exploring that is really, really beneficial. Okay, so you guys grab these. If you want to, you can also do that with the heavier one. I don't want Brad to say that I broke you. But if you feel like you could use one of them, I think you should.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind doing it, but
I'll make sure.
getting it.
Yeah. That's why I always will put it up lateral, parallel to the floor, and then I get close to it of where I think I want it on my body, and then I will go to where I want it instead of trying to drag it, because that is the best way to blow out your back, is if you're trying to drag something in a compromised position.
You can lay it on me then.
Huh?
You can just lay it down on me then.
Yeah, right.
Well, okay, so I'm trying to do. I think we have in the right spot.
So that's gonna, once you get past that, like, you're into like glute med,
Yeah.
which that still
feels
feels
good,
really good.
yeah.
It feels amazing. Which I didn't have a ton of time to get into, but all of that will hopefully.
What, like up here, what we.
So I was staying close just for the nature of what I was talking about, is that you're getting on top of that ASIS, and then you're just pinning it down, and then you're just bringing that muscle and stretching that, like what's down from there. You're gonna by nature get the exactly. So you see how you're pinning it down and you're bringing that leg around, or so you feel that tissue moving.
Yeah.
So that's all that you're doing. It's not like it's a very specific stretch like the rest of the stuff that we did.
Like on my bone.
You probably are, to a degree, like probably that top of that iliacus, but if you're on that pointy thing, that's gonna hurt like crap. So bring it laterally, parallel to the floor first,
Okay. Oh.
and then get close to it, and then go down. That's probably too close, because you're gonna,
Yep.
You're good. Martha, do you want me to show you what it feels like on your hamstrings? So you can bend your leg. Feels very weird. And then you can bring it down. So what you can do.
That really feels good.
Doesn't it feel amazing? It's pretty awesome.
I try, like I try my hand at home.
Hey, Win, do you wanna hold this so I can?
Yep.
And you can, if it's probably not anywhere near tender, is it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, because the hamstrings are huge muscles. So
just hold it
yeah.
at the same-
yeah, just let her move through it, and then I'll.
Okay.
You wanna lay face down? You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Which one is
You okay?
this? This is the heavy.
The lighter.
Yeah, let's use the lighter one.
Roll it back a little bit.
Then you can take it towards my knees just a little bit.
That good?
So,
That's weird.
isn't it weird?
Feels good.
Feels so good.
Oh my gosh.
So.
Make it that down to the knee just a little bit more.
So you really so do you think you could take more weight?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. See, that's what I thought. I'm gonna put the heavier one on you.
Okay. And I'll just roll it slowly back up. This is like my kids like to walk on me, and Oliver will like get on my butt or on my hamstrings like that, and I'm like,
So that's the 130. So it doesn't feel like it would be that aggressive, would it?
it's like, yeah, it
Feels really good.
feels really. Oh man, yeah.
So this is, you'll need someone to do this, but
Oh, take it off and you can do it. That feels awesome.
yeah, right. And so what you can do, here, go ahead and bring your legs straight.
Uh-huh.
If you have someone in here, what you can do is go through, you okay?
Yeah.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And you can go, one thing that I want you to do is be careful with the sacrum. That's what
Yeah.
that ridge is here for. I'm going to go into the butt, okay?
Okay.
Is this?
I gotta pee, but I mean.
Well, if you have to pee.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Well,
would
if
be a
there's
problem.
wet underneath, we know what happened. So what you can do is you can go into
Oh my god.
being able to, if you have someone able to roll it,
Yeah.
it gets a lot more fun for you, at least.
Yeah.
So you can, okay, so here, I'm going to show y'all. If you have it or you're up here, you can do it yourself. You just can't move it very well. Watch, I'm going to like crush my legs.
What do you
Okay,
wanna do?
I'm
Try
trying to
figure out
get,
how to do it.
no, I can,
Can you lay across it?
yeah. There.
Need
It
help?
would help
Nope.
you, but you're trying to do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do it. It's doable. And you can move it, but you can hold. So you can do it yourself. It just takes some finagling. So it's you don't have to have someone, but it is a lot more easier to do if you safe. But you'll see I did that fairly easily, but it's just from me playing with it.
Yeah.
Before I was terrified of them because I mean you should be there
You
should
can get out of it. You can slide out from if you get
Right.
stuck. You can slide out
Yeah.
from underneath them.
and so I haven't been able to get above my butt and everything else. But guys, the reason it has this ridge is that what we'll get into next time is you roll it across the back.
Yeah.
And it feels freaking incredible. Like where your the center of your body is innervated, or the center of your brain runs the center of your body essentially. So your brainstem, pons, medulla, all those guys, they run this. So when you put pressure into it, you're literally lighting up that area. You're lighting up your cerebellum. It's just a different sensation that you can ever get anywhere else. So the reason when people work on you, it feels good is because they're putting pressure into you. And so you have the ability to truly do it yourself. I want to be able to do 80% of the work myself. And then for the 20% that I can't do, that's why you have professionals. So whenever people come into the clinic, guys, it's too expensive. Like for me to charge when I have to charge and pay my staff and do everything, do paperwork that it needs to be done, there has to be some work that has to be done outside of here to truly have a functional body, instead of like, because I really would like to see all of you guys have a functional body and get to the level of fitness that you want to get to where you can do whatever you want to do. That's the goal.
So anti-cultural.
Exactly. It's very,
Countercultural.
yeah, so it's extremely that, because we've always been told like we're supposed to be dependent on the community that you have. And great, yeah, be dependent, but only be dependent on like when you're in that state where you need some professional help. And as much as it sounds backwards for me to say this, is that you have to be able to learn how to work on yourself. Like, and this stuff is it seems very complicated, but it's very basic. It just takes time for you like playing with it and getting into it. The whole reason for the movement exam and the strength exam is like learning, okay, well, what's weak, what's not, what needs mobilization, like what are the best ways to attack it. And so it all ties in. Like I really want to have a health center based around health instead of I want to get rid of your low back pain. Getting rid of low back pain is not very exciting. I mean, you can do it, but it's going to come back if you keep doing the same thing. So it gets even cooler when you're able to go ride 100 miles, go run a race, go be with your kids, like have the same amount of energy with your kids on a morning in the evening as you do the morning, or be able to work with a clear mind. All that ties into that. All that ties into the energy that you have and how your body uses it. And if there's any areas that need work, that's blood flow, that's efficiency, that's inflammation. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So mobilization is the key to, or a big key to functionality. And so if you have kids, then you understand this, or you've had kids. If you have, and look at a kid's arm, you know how their skin will literally like wrap around, it's like, what's wrong with your skin? That's what's wrong with us more than what's wrong with them. But that's how our skin's supposed to be, and ours is not. Like that's what fascia should feel like. That's what skin and tissue should feel like. But we have these movement patterns that we've done our whole life that we've gotten into that has made us truly dysfunctional. And so your strength goes up when mobility is there. Your agility goes up. Your injury prevention goes up. Like everything goes up when oxygen can get to where it needs to be to repair that tissue. Blood can get where it needs to be. Okay, I didn't break it. I thought I broke it. Like no. But making sure that you have mobility in your strengthening program or your exercise program is just as important as your exercise program that you're doing. Any questions? What I want y'all to do is, I think there's 2 spots left in the next class. We're going to get into, if it seems overwhelming, is that you're in the right spot. Whenever it's like drinking from a fire hose, then you're just getting a lot of information. I'm not expecting you to take all of this and walk away with it and it immediately be usable. By doing this, you're just dipping your toes in and going, okay, well, I can do that or I can't, or I need to go do yoga, or like this is just a pretty aggressive way to work on yourself.